They don't let me out very often, you know. But I said I had to meet Spike Jonze. Fuck, I love that guy's work so much. I think I could have been him with a little luck. But you see, I didn't have that little bit of luck, though. I shake like this all the time.
Do you have any advice for young people?
Quit this life as soon as possible. Get out, get out. You are doing a documentary of a brain-dead person.
Okay.
Yep. Do I?
Yeah, just say like, you know, I'm Maurice Sendak, we're out at my barn.
Oh, okay. I'm Maurice Sendak. We are now sitting in my barn. It's where I come and work when I want it to be very quiet. There's no radio here, there's no TV, there's nothing here. Just me and Herman, the shepherd, the German shepherd, who says nothing. He doesn't critique my work, doesn't cluck his tongue. When he has to take a leak, he just tells you, you know, straight out. Well, I've had infinite amount of dogs, but Herman is the best, and also he's the best trained because of my legs and back. He walks slowly, he looks after me. Aside from her, he's the only thing that makes me happy.
Aside from Lynn? Does Lynn live with you?
Yes, she is the woman in my life. She is the only woman in my life.
That's not true. You have a lot of women in your life.
Yes.
Women love Maurice. Maurice gets proposed to at least 4 or 5 times a year.
It's terrifying.
Keener proposed to you.
Who?
Catherine Keener wanted to marry you.
I want to marry her too, but it's not likely we'll get it together.
Hi, Maurice. I'm practicing. Hi, Maurice. Did you have brothers or sisters?
I had.
They're gone.
They're gone. They were wonderful, truly wonderful people.
Girls or boys?
One brother, one sister. I'm the baby.
You are the baby. I could tell.
Baby.
You seem like the baby in the lineup.
How do you tell?
How do you tell?
I don't know. You just feel it.
I was telling Keener how a lot of your family and experiences with your family wound up in a lot of your work. Is that true?
No.
No? You told me that it was
I make up a lot of shit. But I can't tell the real story.
I know it's.
Well, partly because I don't remember it anymore.
Plus, what's a real story?
Yeah. I hated my family.
You didn't hate your sister and brother.
No. I hated my mother and father.
The family?
Yeah, that's it.
That's the sister, brother, and me, yeah.
They're beautiful.
They are. She was so beautiful.
What are their names?
Jack, brother. Natalie, sister. Moisha, me.
Are you Moisha?
I'm Moisha, or Marie.
What happened to Maurice?
Nobody,
affectation?
Nobody liked it. I'm named after the doctor who pulled me out of my mother. But I was like the healthy, unlooked for baby. I was not intended. It was an accident. And my father would say how he'd go to the drugstore and he'd buy everything on the shelf. He even bought a little ladder and he made my mother, this is true, he made her stand and he forced these toxic things down her so she would abort me. And then she would slip and fall off the ladder, and if the toxic things didn't work, the fall would work. Well, it worked in making me a completely creeped up kid.
How'd you find that out?
They told me.
They told you
They
tried
didn't
to
tell me
record
out
it.
of malice. This was, you gotta see, these were things were not like in the movies, were cruel. These were factual things. We could not afford you.
How old were you when they tell you that?
I think 2 days old.
Is it something they told you often?
Very often. To make me, I don't know why they did, but it was more a good story.
It's a story.
Yeah, I mean,
hour.
after a while they got used to me, like I was gonna be there. There's no easy way to get rid of me. And then my father would talk about watching me get bored. He said, "You're the happiest baby I ever saw. The other kids didn't. You came out almost laughing." And then he wrote me once and said, "I'll never forget those early days when I would come in the dark room in the crib and you'd just be laughing all by yourself, like a little bell ringing." Oh, wow, what a start I had. What a good beginning, what a hopeful sign that was. What did they do, break the bell? My good fortune was in my siblings. I was very lucky to be the youngest. To have a sibling as old as 11 meant a lot when you were small. That was a big number when you're small. On top of which, she was a good sister who took you to the movies, who brought you uptown. I loved her fiercely. And it was like she was my mother. She was the mother I chose. And my sister and brother, who were my teachers, they used to copy my brother's pictures, and we made up cartoons, and we wrote stories, and everything upstairs in the apartment with him had a kind of artistic flavor, and were the best days, were the best things that happened to me. How can you have an older brother who's so good to you and thinks of you all the time and teaches you things and corrects your drawings and reads with you, listens to the radio with you? I adored him. Here we go. Juvenilia of the brothers Sendak. This is when I went by the name of Maurice Sendak. See how neat my brother always wrote his name so neatly, and his drawing is so neat. He was very good. He was better than I am, but he was 5 years older than me. See, that's what we thought, that we would always live together, be together, and make toys.
So these are toys that you and your brother made when you were kids?
Yes. He did all the carving and the figuring out how it worked, and I did all the painting. The wolf gets out of bed, and she faints.
That's great. It's amazing that it still works, too. That's amazing that you guys engineered it.
Well, he was the genius of the family. We made these over the summer of 1948.
So how old are you in 1948? Maybe 15?
20.
Oh, 20. And
I was born at 28. This is old Mother Hubbard at her cupboard. 60 years ago.
does it feel like 60 years ago?
Kind of. Feels like 160 years ago. This has been my favorite. This is Aladdin. This is what brought my father to throw us out of the house.
Why?
2 sons who made toys. I mean, really? I didn't have a lot of friends. I mostly observed children. I'd sit at my window and I'd draw them, even when I was a child. And I would tell their stories. As their stories floated up to the window, I would write what their stories were. Today, Rosie decided to wear her long red dress. I filled gallons of sketchbooks with Rosie stories and other kids' stories. And I kept a journal. It was very bad luck. Everybody who saw my work, you always use the same word, like it's European. Go look at American children's books. You see they have cute upturned noses and little puff of blonde hair in the front. And I was thinking, I never knew a kid who looked like that. Never. They all had squashed heads and thumpy, lumpy bodies. And then when Ruth Krauss found my collection of sketchbooks in Ursula Nordstrom's office in 1952, she screamed with laughter at my little people, as she called them. And she wanted me right away. Do a book, A Hole Is to Dig. That was it. From the age of 20 Oh, and I had a book almost every year. Didn't make me money, but it made me work. And then you get to do your own book. And now you're 32, and you write your own picture book, which is called Where the Wild Things Are. And the rest of your life has changed. Wild Things was my first big book, full color and text being mine. And it was a big risk because as it was being done, people at the house already were shaking their heads like they're doing with you now.
Yeah.
That this is not the kind of book we want to publish. It's scary. And the book was banned and it was terrible reviews. It was hard.
What was the controversy over the Wild Things?
It was really the idea of a mother not having disciplined her child. And also, she was reduced to his level of anger when he says, I won't eat, and she says, you won't eat anything. And she throws him in his room, and no mother should do that. And I agree, no mother should do that. But I also agree that mothers and children are human beings, and they will lose their way occasionally and do the wrong thing and say the wrong thing. When it was published, it was put down by some psychiatrist, a very famous psychiatrist, Bruno Bettelheim, wrote an article about don't let this book overnight in your child's room. He got me into a lot of trouble because he was extremely famous. And I got an honorary degree at some college, and he was getting one too. And we were standing next to each other. So I introduced myself, and they said, oh, you, I hate your book. I will always hate your book. And what I couldn't say back was, and I will always hate you. And then he committed suicide. I knew it would cause a lot of trouble. And my editor knew it, and all she did was encourage me. Go for it, go for it. Don't worry about anything or anybody. Maybe I wouldn't have done it without her. That's her, by the way, just behind Lance.
What's her name?
Her name is Ursula Nordstrom. She made me who I am. She gave me a book every year. She kept me working. I mean, can you imagine mentorship from a publishing house? She intended that I should be an important illustrator. She knew I could be. I had bad habits. I never went to art school. I drew in a clumsy fashion, but she could see beneath that. It became a very famous book, but it took about 2 years. It took about 2 years before librarians began to see that's all the kids were taken out of the library over and over and over again. But then everything I did after that was seen in the shadow of Where the Wild Things Are. Like books I love, like In the Night Kitchen and Higglety Pigglety Pop. You know, that is really my favorite book. That is just, I always wanted to write another book like that. It was my longest book, the longest text I wrote, and the most personal, deeply personal.
What do you like in the Wild Things? What are your favorite things still 40 years later?
It's probably the only real children's book I've ever done. Scary and funny and ludicrous. Every book I've done since that book is controversial. I did like 15 books up till then. I got away with murder. Then I do that book, oh, mamma mia, okay? And everything after that is, hey, they found a dick. They found a dick in the night kitchen. Mickey has a penis. Gewalt. Who would have thought such a thing could happen to a child? So you can hear my contempt.
Did you intentionally make him naked, or was that?
Of course, what do you think, it drew itself?
Well, no, but I mean, were you just drawing and you said, oh, that's funny if he's naked, or did you set out to make him naked, or?
I don't know, I don't remember. It's probably spontaneous.
You drew a very happy book. This is probably one of your lighter books.
Yes.
You told me this was a sort of homage to a lot of your favorite things.
A lot of my favorite things and people. Champion. That's when I had the severe attack and they couldn't wake me in the hospital in England. And she was standing over my bed. She was a nurse. And she was pulling me up. I'll always remember it as like being pulled up on a rope from a well. And every time I made a move to wake up, it felt like I was pulling up. And she would say, champion, champion. Mama's cream of tartar.
Did you love Laurel and Hardy?
I adored them.
How come there's no Laurel and only a Hardy?
Because I couldn't use a skinny guy. You know, both my parents were dying. And you could tell that right from the beginning. See, this is for my mother and my father. And he's saying, Mama, Papa.
Do you have any kids?
Do I have any kids? No. I never wanted children. For a minute I did, but I thank God that I didn't do it. If you don't do it well, then what do you do with? There's so many kids all over the place. You just want to go around hacking their heads off. No, don't
Kids
want to do
and
that.
parents.
The parents.
Well,
Yeah,
the
at least
parents
hack
make the kids.
Yeah, so hack their heads off. Don't hack the kids' heads off. Come on, Maurice.
No, but
Be
you
kind.
spare. I'm not doing it out of hatred of children. I am sparing them. I'm a children's book writer, but it's not true that I write books for children because I have this adoration of childhood. No, it's a peculiarity of mine that I do this. Something malfunctions in me, okay? What I do is peculiar, but it's all I can do. There's no question that there was no art to child life in my family, none. They couldn't figure out life at all. And my mother never should have had children. She really didn't care for children. Having children takes talent, like any creative thing you want to do, if you want to be good at it. But I wanted to commit my life to being an artist. And having children you could not do that, or you should not do that. You shouldn't take time off from your children. You should decide you would or would not have them. Being gay, of course, pretty much solved the dilemma of that.
How do you think being gay affected you as an artist?
In a very negative way. I didn't want to be gay. I did not want it. It was just yet another sign of isolation. And don't forget, when I was gay, the world was extremely unwelcoming, and it was very different. And it was something you hid. I must have been 19 or 20 when it became obvious to me. And yet I took it as you would take, oh, I need an operation. You know, it was bad news. Just more bad news. The ball was rolling and getting bigger. I think when I was young, I probably worried that knowledge, were it to come out, would ruin my career. But that's when I was invested in a career. And what could bring down a career but a scandal? Okay? Gay man doing books for children. Hello. Okay. That, gone with the wind. Gone with the wind.
How old were you when you started getting more comfortable with being gay and not being so...
In my 20s.
And you stopped beating yourself up about it as much?
I don't think I've ever stopped beating myself up about it. I've always seen it as a dangerous, interloping kind of thing. I missed a lot of fun. I missed a lot of fun. I bet you had a lot of fun.
It's important to me.
You see, you take that for granted, as you should. And to me, it's a dilemma. It's like, how do you cross the Alps? How do you have fun? I was a very dull kid. The way I'm showing off to you, I would never have done that. I was rigid. Now, I feel sad because it's over.
You're always talking about dying.
Yeah. So do I look much older and feeble and like an old piece of wasted shit? I'm sure I only have a little bit of time left. I'll be a memory. I'm very aware of dying. I'm gonna die pretty soon. Death, 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 death. Well, that's no big deal.
You've been claiming dying and becoming senile for years, and it hasn't happened.
But it's gonna.
What if somebody told you you're going to live for another 20 years, Maurice?
I would say make it 10 and you got a deal.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And would you be happy?
Yeah. 20 is too much. Be useless in your 90s, totally useless.
You can't.
You'll just be broken down. You won't be able to do anything. You sit like this all day, you know?
Yeah. Okay, well, 10 years.
Unless somebody's sex organs are right above your fingers, then it's a useless thing.
You're good.
So I want to tell you, if I may, about Outside Over There and how a real-life situation, which was extremely traumatic and very, very painful as a very young child, is then turned into art more than 50 years later. And that was when I was about 2 years old. Lindbergh, Colonel Lindbergh, Charles Lindbergh's baby, was kidnapped. And it paralyzed the world. Handsome, tall American pilot marries daughter of the Mexican ambassador. And then the baby gets kidnapped, and it gets kidnapped from a house that's called Hopewell, which is a brilliant irony. And it gets kidnapped right under the noses of everybody. They were sitting downstairs, husband and wife. They heard a noise. They put it to the March wind. It turned out that what it really was that somebody had put a very rude, crude ladder from the ground to the baby's bedroom, which was on the second floor. Took the baby out and climbed down the ladder, but had not accounted for the extra weight on the ladder. So the ladder broke, and the baby fell down and broke his head. Nobody knew this till a long time after. So then he took the baby in panic and ran or drove, I don't remember which, for a few miles and dumped it in the woods, not very far away from the house. Okay, that was it. Now, I was shopping with my mother, and we were shopping, and we walked past the newsstand. This was about 2 or 3 months later, or maybe more, and I looked at the newsstand, and it said, I couldn't read, but I remember the word Lindbergh. It said, Lindbergh baby found dead. And a great big arrow pointing down to something, because the corpse had been exposed for about 3 months. I saw it, and I went crazy. And I told everybody I'd seen the picture. And finally, it got to be the scandal of the family that I had gone nuts. Everyone said there was no such picture. Stop talking about it. But it was always in my head, that now I would die. There was no question about it. Because if the rich Gentile baby couldn't make it, then how was I going to fare? Years later, in Richfield, where I now live, a man writes a book exonerating the man who was accused of having killed the baby, the kidnapper, whose name was Rudolf Hauptmann. And of all things, this man appears in the Richfield Library. So there's only 2 people there, me and a woman. And every time he said something, I'd correct him, because I knew this case. I knew this case by heart. I had every book written on the case, every photograph that you could take out of a magazine, everything. And so he kept staring at me. And finally, he was done, and he came over and said, hey, you really know a lot. I said, yeah, well, I spent a lot of my life on this story. And he said, let's go have some coffee. So I said, sure, because I was curious to talk to him. And he gave me a copy of his book, and he said, so tell me why. I told him the story, and he said, and you really believed as a 2-year-old that you saw that picture? He threw the napkin over and gave me a pen. He said, draw it. Draw what you remember. So I wrote out what it said, and then I said, then there was something here, and it could be a baby, it could be a boy. I can almost see a profile, I can almost see his nose. And he said, you saw it, and I'm going to show it to you right now. And he had a briefcase. Do you know where my heart was? And he looked through his briefcase, and he pulled out this picture. And there I was seeing it for the 2nd time in my life. And it was a replica. I remembered it exactly. Even for the head being in profile. It was the first issue of the Daily News. And when the Colonel Lindbergh saw it, he threatened to sue them. So on the 2nd issue in the afternoon, it was gone. So just a lucky few like me had seen it. And that laid down the basis of a lifetime. You wonder what children see. I mean, the life of the child, what they see and what they hear and what they don't discuss with you or choose not to discuss. The baby looks a certain way all through the book, but there's one picture in the book that is a portrait of Charles Lindbergh Jr. Here. There's a copy of the Lindbergh baby.
What's this book about to you?
This book is about my sister, that's her, taking care of me. The hardship of it and the doubleness of it, meaning she wanted to take care of me and she wanted me to get kidnapped and die all at the same time. My obsession with death, which a lot of my friends laugh at, because I'm always on it, comes from the Lindbergh baby. And the idea that you could die as a child is an infamous insight for a child. Infamous. Who else saw it as they passed? Lots of children on the street. Did it affect them all? And what was that? An accidental occasion of no consequence at all, not to the world. But it certainly invested me in children forever. But there were too many children I knew who died. One was a direct cause of me. By accident, of course, we were playing ball in the narrow alleyways between apartment buildings in Brooklyn. His name was Lloydie. And we were throwing like a basketball back and forth in this narrow corridor of two brick buildings. And I threw it very hard and high, and it went over Lloyd's head. I saw him miss it, and it bumped into the street, and he ran without looking. And the next thing I saw was Lloyd flying through the air. He was killed on impact. And then I went and stayed upstairs in my room. I refused to come down. I couldn't bear the idea that because they lived in the neighborhood, I would see his mother and sister. And they must have gotten together, the grown-ups must have gotten together, I guess, because suddenly I was on the stoop, and suddenly she was there with her daughter, and it was planned, because she knew how much I did not want to see her, how guilty I was. And she forgave me. She forgave me.
And what did she say?
I don't remember. She was gentle. I know she held my hand, and she said something like, things like this happen, and I know you didn't do anything on purpose. I cannot cry. I can't talk about it. That was bad. Life is so strange. So much time has gone by. I can't believe I'm 80. So much to do, so much I want to do.
What do you want to write about?
I want to write something so simple and so short and so silly, and I want it to be for my brother. That's the only thing wrong with being old, is there no time. There is no time. Anyway, I want to do a work of art that somehow is a reflection of what it's like with the trees, what it's like with Herman, what it's like with grass, what it's like with air. That is totally unspoiled. That is the reflection of an older human being who has put something together of the story of his life, so that the story of his life takes on a meaning above and beyond his books and everything. I just don't feel as though I've achieved that. I came very close in Higglety, very close in outside over there. I don't think I got close at all in Wild Things.
You sort of fluctuate between finding the lack of satisfaction in that nobody recognizes your other books besides Where the Wild Things Are, which I don't even think is totally true.
Majorly true.
No, that's your most famous book, but people are inspired and moved by all of your stuff. But you won't find satisfaction in it, no matter how much praise you got, and you've gotten more than 99.99999% of the people that are alive today.
I know, I'm a spoiled, rotten brat. That's what you're trying to say.
I want to be famous. I want to be snooty. I want to have this big, gray, shiny car, and everybody will see it. Oh, there comes Big Mo. Holy shit. Oh, my God, I can't believe I'm meeting him. Go by in my big, chic car, rare car. You can't find them anymore. You can't find them anymore. They cost millions of dollars. And I want to sit there and people go by. It's him. It is him. They look in the window. Excuse me, can we get the fuck out of my sight? Don't you touch my car. Sure, I'll give you an autograph, you motherfucker.
It seems I never can satisfy some need in me to achieve something of incredible height. For my sake, it puzzles me deeply, and it sours my life. So there's a permanent dissatisfaction. Not in every way. When I'm lying in bed reading and he's lying next to me, I'm gonna wake up and have tea in that room where we were with the sun pouring in. And I think, my goodness, this is, how many people enjoy this privilege? So I know, but I can't make it feel. I can't get it to feel. It's like something's dead inside. I don't know.
Are you getting tired? We should probably wrap it up.
Yeah, I think we should wrap it up. I really am tired.
Maurice.
I wish I could satisfy you as a friend.
You are, you do.
Be a normal human being.
I wish I could just like strangle you and slap you and
Go for it.
and make you realize you do find joy, and that why isn't that enough?
Do you find joy?
Yeah.
How dare you? I was just reading a catalog on William Turner, the great English watercolorist, a marine painter. Nobody's ever painted ships in battle like him. And yet he was not a man people liked particularly. He was fussy and not very nice. But then he said just before he died, is this it? I worked so hard. Is this it? And it really hurt to read that. It really hurt to read that. Because I thought, well, yeah, that's all we can say at the end, that's it. Whatever it is we accomplished, whatever we did, whatever we thought we were doing, or hoped that we would do, it's over. And then I thought about, what about the people you admire so much? And William Blake and all the assemblage of artists, well, they all just died without any guarantees of a further life or that their work was going to be remembered forever. And I realized I shouldn't let myself feel things like that. That is vanity. That you've done something so extraordinary and nobody will ever forget that you did it. Bullshit. The day after Paul Newman was dead, he was twice as dead. So much dying going on. And I guess that goes on every day, doesn't it? And the question is why? Why bother? I don't mean why bother to die, but why bother to get born?
So if I were to pose that question to you in terms of your life, why bother being born and having lived these 80 years?
I would have no answer except that I would have missed Herman and I would have missed Lynn.
Who is Lynn in your life?
My best friend. Person who has sacrificed herself for me. Person thinks I'm worth the trouble of being cared for. She's everybody. She's everything. She's the most devoted friend I have. And I would like to think I'm her most devoted friend.
What else, in these 80 years, if you had not been born, what else would you have missed out?
I would have missed knowing my brother and sister, which would have been a terrible loss. Terrible loss. I would have missed Jenny, my dog. She appeared in Higglety Pigglety Pop. And that's what am I saying? She appeared in every book I did for as long as she lived.
Why was she so important? What was she like?
Because how do you explain that you love somebody or something? How do you explain? She was my companion for like 13 years. And I can still see her from the back. And then she died on Fire Island. And I would have missed Eugene. And I did some very good books, which mostly is an isolationist form of life. Doing books, doing pictures, and is the only true happiness I've ever enjoyed in my life. It's sublime to just go into another room and make pictures. It's magic time, where all your weaknesses of character and all blemishes of personality and whatever else torments you fades away. Just doesn't matter. You're doing the one thing you want to do, and you do it well, and you know you do it well, and you're happy. The whole promise is to do the work, sitting down at the drawing table, turning on the radio, and I think what a transcendent life this is, that I'm doing everything I want to do. In that moment, I feel like I'm a lucky man. I'm trying very hard to concentrate on what is here, what I can see, what I can smell, what I can feel, making that the important business of life. Just looking out the window, the colors that I see, reading Charles Dickens at night for an hour, little rituals I have of listening to Mozart. I'm learning how not to take myself so seriously. That what I'm working on, what I'd like to work on, it's not earth-shakingly important anymore. I am not earth-shakingly important. So what am I saying? I'm just clearing the decks for a simple death. You're done with your work. You're done with your life. And your life was your work. I think what I've offered is different, but not because I drew better than anybody or wrote better than anybody, but because I was more honest than anybody. And in the discussion of children and the lives of children and the fantasies of children and the language of children, I said anything I wanted because I don't believe in children. I don't believe in childhood. I don't believe that this demarcation. Well, you mustn't tell them that. Oh, you must tell them that. You tell them anything you want. Just tell them if it's true. If it's true, you tell them. I have adult thoughts in my head, experiences, but I'm never going to talk about them. I'm never going to write about them. Why is my needle stuck in childhood? I don't know why. I don't know. I guess that's where my heart is.